So Nancy Pelosi has just delayed a vote on President Biden's infrastructure bill once again. This leaves millions of Americans at risk of losing stimulus benefits. This is the latest news surrounding the fourth stimulus check that you have to know. So you want to be sure to stay until the end of this video.
A thousand different questions and they're all legit. I'm telling you, we're going to get this done. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter whether it's in 6 minutes, 6 days, or 6 weeks. We're going to get it done.
Is the President's goal still to end fossil fuel subsidies?
That's his goal, yes. Go ahead.
Jen, the president spent most of his week doing his negotiating behind the scenes here at the White House, in meetings, on the phone. Today he's making a very public trip to the halls of Congress. So why the change in tactics? Is this a make or break moment?
This is a moment where he feels it's exactly the right time to go to the caucus and make the case for why it's important to work together to get this agenda done. He wants to go back to the substance and talk about how the components of each of these packages will make a difference in people's lives. And he wants to have an engagement and a back and forth in person, which, as you can all note, he's had a lot of people here come to the White House. He loves that in-person engagement, and it's an opportunity to do exactly that. When there will be a vote, when there will be a deal, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes about that. This is just his own effort to make his case directly to the caucus.
Is he trying to send a message by literally meeting members physically where they are?
And what message would that be?
That's my question.
I think I wasn't sure what you were asking. I think he was in the Senate for 36 years. You know, he is making clear that if they partner together, if we work together, we can get this done for the American people. And going to their caucus meeting, something, by the way, he did in the Senate. It's not unheard of. It's something presidents have done in the past. Is a way for him to go and make the case for his agenda. As I said earlier, these are his proposals. This is something he passionately believes in, both pieces of legislation. And so it's absolutely right for him to go to where they are and make the case for both.
And one last one. During most of the day yesterday, it was quite clear that the votes were not there for this infrastructure bill to pass. And yet we saw White House officials and the president working throughout the day to try and cobble together the votes to pass that legislation last night, only to see the inevitable happen with the speaker delaying that vote. So what, in the president's view, did that work yesterday accomplish, and was it worth it to try and push for that bill to be passed on that arbitrary timeline?
Well, if the speaker were standing here, I wish she was. She's invited anytime. She would tell you it wasn't inevitable, and that when you legislate and when you are working with a small margin, which she is, in Congress to get something done, that timelines, self-imposed deadlines sometimes can help crystallize for people and help you make progress. And we think it did exactly that. As we said in a statement last night, we're not quite there yet.
So Nancy Pelosi postponed a planned vote on a $1 trillion infrastructure bill in a stinging defeat for Democrats after progressives revolted, withholding their support until an agreement could be reached to enact the full sweep of President Biden's economic agenda. So everybody, Pelosi's decision capped a frantic day of negotiations in Washington, D.C., which stretched late into the evening, as the president and Democratic leaders attempted moderates who pushed for the infrastructure vote, who believe it would be insufficient without a broader $3.5 trillion social policy package. Now, Jen Psaki told everybody that after the House announced that there would not be a vote, Jen Psaki said a great deal of progress has been made this week, and we are closer to an agreement than ever. But we are not there yet, and so we will need some additional time to finish the work, starting tomorrow morning, first thing. Now, Democrats also insisted that the setback was temporary, but the delay underscored the fragile state of the negotiations, as a pair of Senate holdouts demanded the president dramatically shrink the more expansive legislation, containing many of the party's top policy priorities. The House was slated to reconvene on Friday, giving Democrats at least another day to attempt to reach an agreement that would satisfy the feuding factions. Now, both pieces are critical to President Biden's economic vision. He spent weeks personally courting Republican senators to secure a bipartisan victory on the infrastructure bill, which would invest $1 trillion in upgrading roads, bridges, and broadband. But he has staked his presidency and his legacy on the passage of the mammoth social policy bill that would expand healthcare, make childcare more affordable, and establish and establish paid federal leave and combat the climate crisis. So in a vaguely worded letter to colleagues on Thursday night, Pelosi called it a day of progress. She also stated in the letter that discussions continue with the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives to reach a bicameral framework agreement to build back better through the reconciliation bill. Now all of this momentum brings us closer to shaping the reconciliation bill in a manner that will pass the House and the Senate. So with only 3 votes to spare and Republicans largely opposed, Pelosi wasn't able to untangle the competing compromises or promises made to progressives and centrists in time to vote. So Pelosi promised to bring the infrastructure bill to the House floor for a vote this week. But progressives had long maintained that they would only support that bill if it passed in tandem with the far more expensive $3.5 trillion package. When it became clear that the Senate was not prepared to pass legislation as written, progressives stood by their threat to tank the infrastructure bill, which they saw as leverage for ensuring President Biden's entire economic vision was enacted. The fate of Biden's agenda remains in limbo, and with Democrats deeply at odds. It was unclear on Thursday night how they planned to progress. Terms and negotiations were largely driven by 2 Democratic holdouts in the Senate, who are opposed to the current size of the spending package. On Thursday, Joe Manchin of West Virginia said he would not support a spending package that exceeded $1.5 trillion, less than half of the size of the proposal being pushed by Biden and most of the Democratic Party. Amid the negotiations and with only hours to spare, Congress passed legislation to avoid a government shutdown at midnight on Thursday, with Biden later signing a measure that would fund the federal government through December 3rd. Everybody, Congress has until the end of this year to send out more stimulus checks. Hopefully they realize that many American people are still in need of financial assistance. So can they get the job done? Tell me what you think, everybody, in the comments below. So there are continued calls for lawmakers in Washington and also online petitions for Congress to approve more stimulus checks. Some states have already approved stimulus checks and new batches are set to go out in October, including to those who are ineligible for the federal payments. But many are also waiting for Congress to extend federal unemployment benefits. Thank you for watching, everybody. I truly appreciate your amazing support. And if you have any more questions about the 4th stimulus check, then leave them in the comments below.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I really am so excited to be here to say that because of the great work of our distinguished chair of the Appropriations Committee and her cardinals, that's what they're called, cardinals, when you are chair of the Subcommittee of Appropriation, Congresswoman Rosa DeLong.